In today's episode, we're going to discuss about the Vray settings, how they are actually working. We're gonna discuss all the tabs from the Vray. So if you guys are ready, let's jump in. Okay, so now we have our scene. As you can see, we just need to render the whole images, and now I'm going to show you how to do that and how you should approach this kind of rendering situation. So first of all, let's start with the settings for the V-Ray. I already did some fast forward settings for this scene, but I would like to explain a couple of things to you. So in the render tab, you can open this with F10. It's here, as you can see. We have the Vray settings. So these are the settings of the render engine, of course. And the first part here is the settings for the saving and the frame buffer. So here you can see we have the frame buffer. It says here. So this tab, small tab, it's only for the frame buffer. Here you can save your file. So the first thing is enable built-in frame buffer. So this means that each time when you're rendering, you're not rendering with the native 3D Studio Max buffer, you are rendering with the Vray frame buffer, which is this one. The second part is the resolution of the image, and I'm just telling Vray that I want to get the resolution from max, which means that is this resolution from here. So if I uncheck this, I can write here my own resolution, but I'm not going to do that. Then you have here the Vray image file. Here you can save a Vray image file for your scene. This image can be used with the Chaos Player, which is another software coming from Chaos, and you can use this to create all kinds of things afterwards in your image. It's kind of similar to the Corona image editor, but this can apply also to videos, so it's much more complex and yeah, definitely better. You can also have layers, all kinds of things inside, so it's quite a complex program. So you can use it with the Chaos Player, which is coming also with 7.42 euros per month. So anyway, enough about that. And the next part is saving the frame buffer of your image. So this one is exactly similar with the one from the common, from the render output. You can use the render output if you want, or you can use both of them if you want. Here you can save a JPEG, for example, and here you can save a TGA, for example. I'm gonna use only the Vray one. The problem is that 3D Studio Max, if you don't have this checked here, 3D Studio Max doesn't understand that you are going to render an image, and it's gonna give you a small error in the moment that you're gonna start rendering, because yeah, he knows that all the output images, they should come from here. So okay, and here there are a couple of different things that you need to check. One is the save RGB. If you want to save an RGB image like this, here you can have the symbol for the frame buffer, save the alpha of the image, and then you can have separate folders in case you have a lot of render elements here. In the moment that you're gonna save them, it's gonna save, as in here, different folders for each type of image. So as you can see here, I have the ambient occlusion, the original image, and also the RGB color. The original one, if I open one of them, this is the original image. As you can see, it has a lot of noise, so it was not finished, but it was cleaned afterwards by the render engine. And then we have also the RGB color, which is already cleaned. So yeah, this image, it's the one that we just saw before, but it's just with the denoiser on. So this is the original one, this is the RGB, this is the bump and normals, we don't really care about those ones. This is an ambient occlusion that I just saved, this is the Vray denoiser, this is the wire color, so everything that I saved is just in a separate folder. Okay, the next thing that we need to know is the global switches. Here you can switch on and off different things. You can just use the advanced for the basic, but the advanced is better. And these are all kind of things that are happening in Vray that you can turn them off, on and off. So this is the displacement. If I turn this off, I'm not going to have the displacement on my scene. And then these are the lights. In the moment that I turn this off, I'm not going to have any lights in the scene. Then the hidden lights, if I turn this on and I have some hidden lights in some layers that are hidden, they're gonna show in the render. Then this is the depth. This is the depth of the material, how many times, for example, is going to reflect a material, and this is how many times the light is going through the materials that are transparent. Then this is the material override. We already discussed about this thing. You can use an override material for the whole scene, and in the moment that you are creating your scene, you can check if the lights are working well. So this is very good in the beginning, especially when you don't have materials yet and you just want to see how your lights are working and how it's everything looking. So as you can see, this is the one. Then the next thing is the start IPR, which is this button here. So starting the real-time rendering, which is fit resolution to the frame buffer and force progressive sampling. So this is the progressive sampling, which is the anti-aliasing from here. Then we have the image sampler, which is the anti-aliasing of the image. We have the progressive and the bucket. The bucket is the old way of rendering an image in 3D Studio Max. It's doing the light catch right now, as you can see. And then afterwards, these are the buckets. So this is how Studio Max was, this is how V-Ray was rendering before. And now a couple of years ago, they introduced this a V-Ray progressive way of then you have the render mask. This means that in the moment that I'm going to choose any things from here, I can just create a mask and render only that. So for example, if I select this part in here and I chose here the selected, in the moment that I'm going to render, it's going to render only that. See, this part here that was selected is the only one that is showing up. Let me just also take the material override and delete this so you can understand much better what I'm talking about. See, now because I have the selected there checked and I selected this piece of furniture, now it's gonna render only that. So this is how these render max are actually working. Then let's see the next one. Then is the minimum shading rate, which is 6 by default here. The next thing is the progressive image sampler that is starting from 1 is going to 120, and this has to do, to explain you better what it's doing. This is the sample rate, and to get a very good image, most of the time you should have just a blue image in here. So if you get a blue image, this means that the sample rate of your render is good. If you get a red or a green, this means that your sample rate is not very good. And it says also here the blue channel contains the area which reached the desired image quality with few primary samples, and the red channel contains the parts of the image that didn't make it or the desired quality threshold. So this means that most of the time you should render a final image and check if the image sampler of your image is blue enough so the quality of your image is perfect. Otherwise you're just gonna get an image that it's not perfect. So to show you that also, I'm just gonna use the bucket and I'm gonna make the bucket a little bit smaller. I will make the bucket 10 and I will use 1 to 24. So as you can see, the image starts rendering, and where I'm getting these red colors, it means that my image is not, it didn't achieve the sample rate, and the quality is not that good in that area. So normally I should be everything blue in here. So to do that, what you need to do is to go here to the sample rate and add more subdivisions. So if I add here 120, for example, see, now my image start becoming blue, but it's rendering much slower, a little bit slower, or much slower. It says here that it's gonna take around 5 hours, it's going down to render the full image. But now I have a correct sample rate in that area. So this means that the textures and everything they're gonna look good in that area. Otherwise, the sample rate of your image, if it's red, the quality is not perfect, and the overall image is not gonna look that good. So this is why in the moment that I made the video about which one is faster, V-Ray or Corona render, many people said that but V-Ray is much faster and V-Ray is better and so on, and you can see that video on my channel, which is this one. I made a test with this scene that was from from the Chaos group, and I tested both of them with V-Ray and Corona renders to see which one is faster. But I didn't show you here this image sampler for this image. I showed you, and the quality was much worse than this. But if I was raising the image sampler for this image to get the same quality as Corona, the time was getting higher. So I just left everything on default, and I showed in the end which one is faster. And if you don't know, I can show you here. Corona render was much faster than, well, much faster. It was faster than V-Ray. So Corona render was much faster than V-Ray, and the quality was better than V-Ray. And I also showed here, I talked about it. If you want, you can check this video. I talked about the quality between these two images and why the quality was better in Corona than in V-Ray, and it was because of this image sampler. So yeah, as you can see now, we have a good sampling on this image, but the time of rendering is very slow. So now it says that this image is going to be rendered in 2 hours, and we're talking about an 800 by 600 image. Yeah, if I stop this now and save it here, it's somewhere here, the quality, it's probably looking good. The rest is not done yet. And now if I render this image with a sampler much smaller, let's say 6, with a noise threshold of 0.01, and I render this, I go to the sample rate. As you can see, the image is rendering very fast, so everything is going to be done in 6-7 minutes, but the whole image is red. So the quality of this image is not going to be that amazing. So yeah, this is the main problem of V-Ray. To achieve good quality in V-Ray, you just need to have a lot of sample, and this means that the overall quality is not going to be that good. Now it's rendering very fast, and yeah, you can say, yeah, I have the render in a couple of minutes, but the quality of the render, I can't see the textures. Well, also the resolution doesn't help, but you can't see many things. I will just stop this for now and save also this in here, and this is going to be an A, and this is going to be, well, I'm gonna make this an A and this a B. And now I will just go to my sample rate, and now you can see the A, this is the B, and this is the A. So normally you should have a blue image in here to have a good quality render. And if I check only this part in here, you can see that this has a lot of noise, and the sampling is not that good, and this is quite clean, see? So normally you should not use any denoiser in these renders made with V-Ray. Anyway, the V-Ray denoiser is not that good, it's quite bad actually. But if you use a good quality, you see, you don't need any denoiser if you use a good sample rate for your image. So yeah, this is quite important to know, because actually in V-Ray you shouldn't use any denoiser. You should use only a sample rate. The denoiser was made just to make everything faster, and actually they copied the denoiser, in my opinion, from Corona render. So anyway, this is the thing about the image sampler. It was a video made a couple of years ago by an Australian guy who explained everything in depth about how this sample rate is working and why you should use it and how you should use it. I'm not going to talk about this right now. I just want to explain you a little bit the tab from V-Ray, just for you guys to understand how the V-Ray is working. Then we have the next thing on our tab on V-Ray is the image filter. And the image filter, it has a couple of different types of filters for the anti-aliasing. So yeah, you can just use any of them in here. There are old ones and a couple of them are new ones. So the V-Ray line calls filter is of course made by V-Ray and is the best one that you should use. Then we have the next tab here, which is the environment, and here you can have different maps for different types of scenarios. For example, you can have in the GI environment, you can add a map or an HDRI in here, and for the reflection you can have a different map, and for diffraction you can have a different map. So this is also in Corona render, and here you have also the mate environment if you need to use one for post-production afterwards. After this we have the color mapping, which is split in a couple of different ones, so the linear, multiply, exponential, and so on. This has to do with the colors and how they are burned when the light is touching them and so on. I'm not going to talk about all these things. Yeah, you can just use most of the time the linear, and the burn value you can just go a little bit lower with it or just leave it as it is, depends on you. In the moment that you have the burn value 1 in here, it's actually working as a linear multiplier. Actually, Reinhardt is between linear multiplier and exponential. In my opinion, exponential is the best one, but yeah, to achieve good results it's better to use the Reinhardt. And the last thing and the last common tab in here is the camera, where you can use an auto exposure. So this means that you don't need to do any kind of changes to your camera with the ISO, with the film sensor, with the ISO, with the environment, and so on. Well, I need to go to a Vray camera so you can understand much better what I'm talking about. So yeah, these are the things that are the triangle that is giving you an image. These are all coming from photography. So the film speed ISO, which is the film actually, because they are all coming from the film cameras. And then you have the f number, which is on the lens, and then the shutter speed, how fast is it rendering. So all these three you can just click here auto exposure and you don't need them anymore. Then you have the auto white balance. This means that the surfaces that are white in your scenes, they should be white. So by clicking on this, you're gonna have directly the white balance. To show you how is everything working, I'm just gonna make a quick render. So as you can see, everything is looking quite dark. And in the moment that I'm going to use the auto exposure in here, let me just change this to progressive. I'm just going to have a better exposure, or I should have a better exposure. Even though the other one was quite close to this one. But as you can see, while it's progressing, the image is getting better and better and more light inside, because it's also cleaning all this noise. And now you can also see the sample rate with this while it's progressing, and you can see that the image is quite red in here. So the quality of the final image is not that amazing. So when people are saying that what Vray is faster than Corona and so on, yeah, it is faster. It can be much faster than Corona, but the quality can be much worse. But while it's progressing, as you can see, the more red, the red is more disappearing. So yeah, let me just stop this now and add this as a second one, and this can be the A, and this can be the B. And now this was the original image without the auto exposure, just with some settings from my own knowledge, and then this is with the auto exposure. So yeah, if you want, it's better to use the auto exposure to get the best quality of your image. And then we have also the white balance, as I said, and this is an image with a normal white balance. I don't know if the white is actually correct, and now I just chose auto white balance, and I will just make a quick render also with this. So yeah, according to him, to the program I mean, the white balance should be this. Yeah, this is quite blue I think. On both of my monitors is quite blue, so it's not really correct. But probably here is the perfect white, and the rest is just a result of this white. So yeah, I think it's not always working well, the auto white balance, but yeah, it could be a good result if you have an exterior scene and you have only one light, because here we have quite a lot of lights, and most of them have different color temperatures. So this is why this is happening. I'm gonna stop this now and take this out, and also the auto exposure. Then you have the FOV with a field of view, which you can change, which is exactly the same one as the one that you have in here, which is this one. The field of view, you can have it as a default as an angle like this, or you can have it in millimeters depending on the focal length of your camera. Yeah, you can have here all kind of things, the fisheye, all kind of things that are happening. And here you can have a spherical, cylindrical, box, fisheye, warp, spherical, orthographic if you want to, and so on. I'm not gonna talk about this. Also spherical, how to create spherical images in Vray, and also how to create cube images. I'm gonna make a tutorial in the future about how to create VR images that you can use in your VR. Then we have the motion blur, which means that you can use it for I also made a video about this in the past. It was made with Corona about how to create motion blur for the wheels of your car. You can see it here. So I don't know if you can see this image, but here you can see the motion blur on the wheels of the car. And the last thing is the depth of field. I'm going to create in the future a depth of field video only about this. It's very quite simple. Let me just go to the other camera that I have, the physical camera. The cool part about the physical camera is the fact that you can actually have the depth of field directly in the viewport, so you can see what's happening in the scene. So for example, if I go here and I have the depth of field here and I check the aperture, I can just go with 1, and in the moment that I did that, you can see some parts of my image are getting blurred because of that. So if I go in here to a place where you can actually see it better and you have much more things happening, as you can see, the part that is in the front is getting blurred, and it's because of that. Also here is getting blurred and it's getting much better in the back. If I select the camera target, or where the place where the camera target is just going to be in focus, but right now my focus is quite far away. See? And now I can just focus and now I can focus here. So yeah, this is what depth of field means. So if I just focus here, this is gonna be in focus and the rest is gonna be blurred, as you can see. And also if I render this, I don't know if you can see, this is not a final render, but as you can see, it's getting more blurred in the background, also really in the front, and this area is more in focus. So this is how the depth of field is working. I can show you how to apply this also in Photoshop afterwards with using Vray Z depth, which is the depth of the image. Here you can see it. This is this area here, which is the brightest one is the one that is actually in focus, and the rest is getting very blurred. In the moment that it's quite dark, it's blurred, very blurred, and then you can see it also here. The problem is that the Z depth image it got blurred also here because I applied the focus, the Z depth on the Z depth. This is how it's working. So anyway, this is but I'm gonna talk a little bit later also about this. And then we just finished with what's happening in this tab. Then we have the GI, which is the global illumination one. The global illumination one, it's working. It's here is the primary engine, and the second engine, which in this case is the primary engine, is the brute force, and the second one is the light cache. You can have different types of combination between brute force and light cache, or brute force and brute force, or you can have light cache with light cache, or you can have light cache with irradiance map. So all of this can create, you can render much faster or much slower depending on which one you want to use. The slowest one is brute force with brute force, and the fastest one is the irradiance map with light cache. And also irradiance map has some presets in here that you can play with. These are more options actually. As you can see, you can go with a very low irradiance map and with a light cache of 1000 subdivisions, and in the moment that I'm gonna render, it's gonna render faster. Also the quality of my image is going to be worse than before, and as you can see, it's rendering with buckets. Now it's doing the irradiance map. It's gonna do it 2 times, I think. Yeah, pre-pass 2 of 2 because we went with low, and after that it's gonna start rendering the image, and now it's using the progressive mode. But also if I go here and you see the sample rate, probably the whole image is going to be quite red. So yeah, I need to take the denoiser out. Most of the time normally, if you want to have a good quality of render in V-Ray, you shouldn't use the denoiser and you should use the sample rate. And this is how you take out the noise from your image. In Corona, for example, it's much smarter made the denoiser, so it can actually clean the image. Because also, if you want to have a good sample rate in Corona, it's also going to take you a lot of time to render that image. Well, anyway, I will just stop this for now. I will just go back. Oh, and go back to brute force with light cache. Here you can add a little bit more subdivisions if you want and change the sample size and so on. And the next tab in here is the caustics, where if you want to create caustics in V-Ray, you need to check this here. And yeah, I'm not gonna explain about these caustics. So the caustics are very slow in V-Ray, and it doesn't make any sense to use them. And then the next tab, which is the settings, where you have the authorization, about V-Ray, color management, what kind of color management you want to use for rendering your final image, which is ACG, ACG or sRGB. The displacement, where you can change the displacement overall in your scene. The system is how the image is going to be rendered, from top to right, triangulation, left, right, spiral, and so on. If you use the bucket, you're going to see that in here. It's gonna change here. Then you have the dynamic memory limit, which you can create here a memory limit for your scene. And then you have the stamp for your image, the distributed rendering. If you have more computers, you can add them in here. Then the language, tile textures options here also, the proxies and the reset button. You can reset everything in here. And the last one is the render elements, which is the same in every render engine, where you can add more elements for post-production afterwards. So yeah, you can also have a z-depth, a wire color, which I already add in here. And in the moment that you are going to render an image, you're gonna have them in here and you can see them. This is the sample rate of the last image. As you can see, it's becoming blue. It was becoming blue, so this means that the quality was getting better. And you have also the glare in here, which was added from there. So yeah, these are the options from V-Ray. I didn't go in depth with all of this because it's quite a lot of information, and you're not going to actually understand how it's working, because even for me, working for more than 20 years is still hard to understand all these options. So this was the episode of today. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know in the comments what did you like and what you didn't find useful or easy to understand. I can explain more about these problems in the comments, or I'm gonna explain in the future episodes about V-Ray how to fix these problems. So in case you guys liked it, please don't forget to subscribe, give it a like. It's gonna help the channel so I can make more videos about it, and see you in the next one. Bye.